Thank you. So let me start by first appreciating the organizers of this event for the kind invitation extended to me. Uh, I came all the way from Abuja in Nigeria, that's the Federal Capital Territory in Nigeria, in Africa, for this event, and I'm really happy to be here. The topic that has been given to me is one of the most interesting and exciting topics to young practitioners, under which category I also fall. So I'll be speaking on social media change, embrace or reject. And the first thing that comes to mind when you hear this topic is what is the importance of social media? Why do we need to discuss social media in this digital age? I'll be showing in the course of my presentation the upsides and the downsides of social media, particularly to young practitioners. And I'll focus on how we can all use social media to build our personal brands and also stand out as young practitioners. So a certain Canadian philosopher, Marshall McLuhan, once stated that the world is a global village. Until his death in 1980, there was no certainty on the postulation of McLuhan's statement. Not until in 1990s, towards the end of 1990s, that social media evolved, that McLuhan's statement was made more or less like a certainty to McLuhan's statement, in the sense that businesses and business transactions can now be carried out with relative ease via social media, both locally and internationally. And as with many things in life, there are upsides and downsides. One of the upsides of social media, as you can see on this slide, is that it enhances speedy communication. People are able to communicate speedily and efficiently now without the need to travel physically from Nigeria to Hong Kong or from Brussels to Senegal. People just, a click of a button, you are able to communicate speedily. Also, it helps in building a virtual relationship. You're able to nurture and grow relationship without meeting yourself physically. And it's also one of the ways in which you can be in touch with the world. And this is particularly useful for millennials who found social media as a driver way by which information is consumed. And one of the downsides of social media is that it is seen as causing distractions. Some employers see it as affecting productivity. For many employers in Nigeria, you are not able to access your social media platforms in the course when you are in the workplace because those social media platforms have been disabled. And one of the concerns of the employers is that it causes distractions and affects productivity. Another downside of social media is loss of privacy. When we are creating social media accounts, we put lots of private information, and there are terms and conditions, and most times we don't read through the terms and conditions. We just scroll down and click the box, and we accept the terms and conditions, and as such we are able to give away control of some of our private information. So another downside of social media is potential conflict of interest, which I think Charlie has spoken about. There's some potential conflict of interest that may arise from the use of social media. I'll give an example of a senior practitioner from Nigeria who once was appointed for an arbitration, and one of the parties to the case raised an objection to his appointment based on the fact that he had connections with one of the parties on LinkedIn. The tribunal had to rule on that objection, even though it was more or less like a flimsy one, but the tribunal had to rule, and the tribunal ruled that there was no question as to his independence and impartiality, and as such, the objection was overruled. But there are potential conflict of interest issues that may be triggered by the use of social media. But in the course of this presentation, I'll bracket all the downsides of social media and focus more on the upsides and how we can use social media to stand out as young practitioners. And why do we need to stand out? We know that the law practice is getting more and more competitive than ever. Before, when you finish from Cambridge or you've gone to Harvard Law School or Oxford, you are sure of a good job after you finish from uni. But now the law practice is getting more competitive. There are many graduates from the Ivy League schools, so you need to stand out, show what you've got, show your competence in a more and more competitive market. Also, arbitration is considered for aspiring arbitrators. Arbitration is considered a closed shop, which is very difficult for young practitioners to break into. And as such, you need to be out there, be visible in the market for people to know you and for people to be able to understand. For people to know you and for them to be able to know, you must be visible in the market. And we know that, for example, in arbitration, non-lawyers are allowed to practice arbitration, particularly for technical disputes. You need non-lawyers as co-arbitrators. Non-lawyers, are coming into the practice, and because of that, part of the pie, a share of the pie, is getting more and more smaller and shrinking. And as such, you have to be more competitive to be able to get into the closed shop. Legal budgets of law firms are shrinking, and being competent is not just enough. You need to be out there. You need to be visible. People have to know you. You have to be visible in the market for you to get the necessary recognition and appointment. And I can also demonstrate this with a potential appointment by potential arbitration appointment by a traditionalist, a senior practitioner, and a millennial, maybe a junior associate in a law firm. So if a senior practitioner is to appoint an arbitrator, you will typically rely on recommendation from a colleague, or rely on, nominate someone that he has met before in an occasion, in an event. But for millennials, the first thing a millennial or an associate that wants to make potential nomination will do is to go on Google and Google you and try to put your name and see what you are, what you've done before. I know there's this cliche that you are who Google says you are. Then some people will go on Clue Arbitration blog to see what you've done before, what you've written before. Some will go on LinkedIn to check your LinkedIn profile to see your certifications, what you've got, and what that shapes their perception about you for possible appointment. So we need to build, brand using social media. And why is personal branding important or necessary? It is necessary because personal branding is a critical part to creating awareness in a crowded marketplace and in a marketplace that is very competitive. So internet is free and accessible. Of course, for we that we are living in this part of the world, is free and accessible. For Africa, we are trying to catch up. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. Twitter is also powerful, and you can also use Instagram. You can also do personal blogging if you have the time. Just push out, all you've got. Let people see you, be visible. That is how you'll be able to get relevance in the competitive market. If you have a LinkedIn profile, update your social media profile or LinkedIn profile with recent participation and certifications. And that is what I actually do when I come back from a speaking engagement. I have new certifications. I upload LinkedIn profile with the certifications. And more you get employers chasing you, recruiters chasing you, saying, are you interested in this job or the other? And you tell them, no, you are not available now. You get to, people writing you to say, asking, requesting that you come and speak in different events, people, asking you to, if you are able to take up potential arbitration appointments, because people go on your social media profile to check who you are and to see what you've got. Also, write on online journals and reputable arbitration blogs. Like I mentioned Clua the other time, write on Clua. Clua has massive followership and readership, so people be able to understand, as they see your work, and begin to form an impression about who you are and what you are capable of doing. Also, it is important to create awareness and establish relationship within your arbitration network. Conferences like these, attend networking events, and don't it should not stop there. When you attend networking events, also follow up by emails, tell them how good the discussion was, and follow up, add them on LinkedIn or other social media platforms, and continue to forge that relationship, build that relationship. And when it matters most, they will remember you for jobs. So always be prepared and use every opportunity to showcase your knowledge. For example, I was invited last year to speak at an event organized by the United Nations Commission on International Trade, UNCITRAL, in Seville, in Spain. And after my presentation, I had the 5-minute discussion with a top leader in arbitration within the arbitration market. And we spoke for just 5 minutes. And after the 5-minute discussion, because it was in our hurry to catch a flight to Portugal, and the next day he sent me an email to say, oh, do you know that that discussion that we had yesterday was very profitable? I had not thought of third-party funding that you are working on in the way you've described it. Is it possible that we publish an article together on this, or possibly make a proposal to some institutions on this? He found it very useful. So always be prepared. Anytime you meet a thought leader, you have the opportunity to speak with a to-be employer. Always be prepared to showcase what you've got, and the knowledge that you have. So internet has democratized access, and you can now bypass gatekeepers. Internet is accessible to all of us. You can use internet to shape how you are perceived. Like I said, Google is you are who Google says you are. And as internet, social media is important. Networking is also important, because your network is your net worth. You need to tirelessly network, attend conferences like this, attend conferences by arbitration institutions and arbitration associations, by chambers of commerce. When you get back from the networking event, try to follow up and begin to build your brand through the connection. So I've said before that the market is becoming more and more competitive. I've said the arbitration, for aspiring arbitrators, arbitration is considered to be a closed shop. I've said that our share of the pie is shrinking and getting smaller, but then the sky is still big enough for all stars to shine. So rather than work in silos, it's also important that you work collaboratively by using some of the thought leaders that you have connected to on social media. Get some of those leaders to mentor you. Mentorship is key, is very important, because when there are opportunities, those mentors will remember you and they will call on you. And again, it is not enough to understand the rules and practice of arbitration. You also need to be commercially aware. Clients now don't want the lawyers that only know the rules or practice of arbitration or procedures. They want lawyers that also understand the commercial underpinnings of their business, those that are able to provide commercial solutions to their issues. So look beyond arbitration. Read Financial Times, the Washington Post, The Economist. Just get if as much information as you can get, and try to push out your knowledge for people to know you. And I can't emphasize this enough. Write until you are noticed. Let people begin to notice you in the market. So I will demonstrate again with an example of the Association of Young Arbitrators, IA, which I founded in 2015 after a secondment program at Baker McKenzie office in London. I was in my flight back to Lagos in Nigeria, and I just came up with the idea of how young arbitration practitioners in Africa can benefit from having a platform to relate with their peers outside Africa, and also connect with thought leaders outside Africa. So the initiative was launched sometimes in 2016, and we built online presence in 2017. We did not have any local physical meeting. Everything was done on social media. We connected with the relevant arbitration institutions, connected with all so many thought leaders within the arbitration industry and market. Sometimes in 2017, we did our first program, the first mentoring program for young practitioners in Africa. And we were able to assemble an impressive list of thought leaders in and out of Africa, who are who are able to mentor young arbitration practitioners in Africa for 6 months, and the program was massively successful and was rated one of the best that came out of Africa in 2017. All this we did by social media, build the relationship, nurture the relationship through social media. We also in 2018 did the first intra-Africa award writing competition, which was also done by social media. We got top law firms in London and in Paris to sponsor the competition, and it was also massively successful. And the major program that the association is doing right now is the Africa Arbitration Academy, of which Charlie is one of our hosts. Wilmar Earl is one of the sponsors. The program is being sponsored by about 15 international law firms in London: Baker McKenzie, White and Case, Wilmar Hill, Mayor Brown, Allen and Overy, the major ones. And we also have collaboration with ICC in Washington, ICC in Paris, and major arbitration institutions, supporting us in this initiative. And the 15 international law firms will be providing funding for young arbitration practitioners in Africa to come to London to learn for 3 weeks from thought leaders, from renowned experts within the arbitration sector, the current trends in international arbitration, and take the knowledge back to their peers in Africa to influence those that are back home. So all this we did by social media, build the relationship by social media. We grew the association by social media. And the association today is considered the foremost young practitioners group in Africa, all thanks to social media. So the higher your profile, the more people want you, the more people want to get to know you. The world of arbitration is small and a niche network. We have revolving arbitration appointments among the superstars, considered superstars arbitration practitioners like Audley Shepard, Gary Bourne, Emmanuel Gaillard, the likes of them. And it's very difficult for younger generations and people like us to break into, particularly for some of us from Africa. So what we do is try to push out our work, try to be visible in the market, and try to showcase to people what you've got and your competence and what you can do, so that people begin to recognize you and form perception about you. So if there's any takeaway from my presentation, the takeaway is that technology has become an everyday life instrument. So you can use social media to create a strong personal brand and also stand out in the competitive market. Thank you.